Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode here on the Hermitcraft Amplified server. Right now we're over at everyone's favourite rainbow puking sheep farm. It is Rainbow Fall, what else would it be? This place is awesome, it's always good to come back here, and I haven't come here to get wool, although this is obviously the place you'd come to do that. If you haven't seen this before, we have two massive sheep farms, magic sheep farms where they automatically rotate themselves. You can AFK here and get ridiculous amounts of wool. But the problem is, you can only get one type at a time. Now, originally, that was actually an advantage of this place. And over time, it's kind of like become a bit of an annoyance because sometimes you just want lots of colours and it's hard to get them. So I've decided what we're going to do is redesign this thing. And I've been on my creative server already figuring out how we're going to change this. And I said, right, today we're not going to do this. But I don't know what's wrong with me. I just continuously do this over and over again. I've spent a long time looking at the materials that we need, and there's not a lot of them, making sure that I've got everything, and I get over here, I open my inventory, and somehow I have managed to forget the most important thing, which is powered rails. I don't know how I could look at this thing and not see the powered rails and not remember them. Whatever, we're over here, I've forgotten them, I'm going to have to go back, that's fine. What I'd like right now is some silk touch, so I can remove this glass temporarily. And what we were originally going to do is take out this glass right here and then make a rail that goes where these sea lantern blocks are and where the hoppers are. And this rail would go back and forth, and I've done the testing. You can sit in it with a shear in your hand and go like this, and you will shear each of the sheep as you go across. So that means you can shear all the ones on one side at one time. Then over at the end we'd create a little dispenser to refresh the shears if ever they break, so you can pick them up again. But as I came over here, I started looking at this again, and I saw something that I didn't see before. And I'm pretty sure that there is another way to do this, because if we have our rails going across here, we're basically stopping the use of these little booths right here. So how this works at the moment is that you go in, you turn it on, the door closes, and it's going to continuously dispense some shears. Now, without these blocks on the side, it means that those shears could pretty much fall anywhere around here, not get picked up by the hopper, and then it make the machine pretty useless because those shears are just going to despawn and disappear. So as I came over here and had a look at things, I realised that if we were to remove these blocks and have our rail go across here, it might be possible for us to point downwards at the sheep and shear them. Now, there's quite a good chance that we're also going to be in the block above, and if we are, then we're not going to be able to shear them. But if we can, then we should be able to have rails going all the way across the front here, and then we can keep our glass behind it. So look at where that gap is. If we have glass back here, then the minecart can go back and forth, no problem, but also you can still make use of this little booth right here, because the door's going to shut, the item will get dispensed into this space down here, and there can still be a minecart going back and forth, which means you can use it in both ways, which is exciting. I think that's awesome. I just want to find out if we can do this or not. So I've already got well, this guy has successfully stolen my minecart, and I can tell you, unfortunately, this doesn't work. You can see what we've got here is a recreation of what's on Hermitcraft, and this is where the rails would have been, and this works just fine, by the way. Thing is, when the rails are up there, our head's going to be inside the block above, and unfortunately that doesn't work. I can actually give you a demonstration of that as well. Let's summon in a sheep over here, and let's sit inside this minecart, hold down it, don't go away! Trust me, it doesn't work, even though he's wandering off. You can see the outline of the block that we're inside of, and when we hold down right click here, nothing happens, so we can't interact with anything on the outside. So then I was thinking about changing this block to a half slab or a different type of block, and I realised if we made it a half slab, then the gap would be big enough here for the sheep to land on top of the dispenser. Now, with them falling down, like quite a lot of them all the time, they're probably going to nudge each other and one will land on there and take full damage, so that is really bad. And then I started thinking about possibly redesigning this thing. Let's get you out of the way for a second, because we've got our dispenser right up against where the sheep is, and I'm not sure that that's necessary. We might be able to stand a little bit further back to interact with them, but then I think the problem is, and I'm going to look over this and double check, but if we move the dispensers out by one, so they're out over here, it means we can lower the rails down to this height, but then we need a block here as well to stop them from interacting with the sheep, which means the sheep would be like here, and then our dispenser would be all the way over here, and we would be standing back where this lever was, so we'd barely be able to interact with the sheep. and it seems like a bad idea. But since I've had this idea to go across the top here, I think I'm just going to stare at this for a little bit longer, see if any more ideas come to mind, but if not, we're probably just going to go with this solution right here. So I last worked on this maybe a month, 2 months ago. It could even be that long, and I'm talking about the bit down below. And I didn't know when I'd get round to doing this, but I had a bit of free time to play around with it. And when you give yourself time away from a project, you come back to it with fresh eyes. And I think we've got a solution here, and I really do like it because a couple of problems sort of cropped up, and now we found ways to fix them. So what we're going to do is, like I described before, where we have this gap like so for the rails to go through, what we're actually going to do is just keep the rails on top of where the dispenser is, which means we only need to move it out by 1 block, which is what we've done right here. So now this is 1 block further away, which should be just fine, and it means that our rail can go along like this, and it looks like we can sort of look down if we have stairs right here. Now if this is a full block, you can't actually look down at the sheep, but because it's not, we might get away with it, and we're about to find out when we do a test. By the way, yep, you can see here there's no glass at our head height, so it should work just fine. Now then I thought occasionally what happens is some of the wool lands on the block on front, which would have been the dispenser before. One of the things that I do when I stay on the AFK is make sure I've got some of the colour of the wool that I'm harvesting in my inventory. And already I've just realised there's something a little bit wrong with this. Or maybe, we'll see. So this problem is something that happens when you're standing here and you're shearing all of the sheep. Occasionally their wool will land on the block in front, which before was the dispenser, and what I used to do is take some of the wool of the same colour, put it in my inventory, and then when you're standing here working with the shears, you'll pick some of that wool up, which is pretty good. And they don't drop a lot either, it's not a huge problem. Now my solution to that I thought was really cool at first. Just put a hopper right here, and it will put the items into the dropper in front of it, and then it will dispense them into your inventory. So you can do the same thing again. You can have a little bit of wool in your inventory so that you pick it up and it just comes through the dropper. Now that's a great solution for when you're using it like this, but when you're going across in the minecart back and forth, it's not going to be quite the same because you're probably not going to pick it up. The hopper is going to pick up the item first. But then I realised, well, the hopper's actually got quite a lot of inventory space, so it would actually pick up some of that wool, which means after you're done, you can go and check the droppers in front of you, which I think are actually full up with shears by default, so it might be a case of walking the lines and picking up a few extra bits of wool. Now, when we're talking about how many there'll be, it'll probably be like 10 to 20 after a long time of shearing, so I don't think it's going to be like a really big difference, and it doesn't take long to come back here and check them if you really need it. So one slight flaw, but otherwise I think this is going to be exactly what we are looking for, and I'm very happy that we found this. So what we're going to do is plop down our minecart and we're going to give it a test. We're going to build up some speed first of all, then we're going to sort of align ourselves and not rush into this, and now we're going to hold down right click, and the fact that we saw one of them get sheared is absolutely fine. There you go, we can actually reach them. Now I know what you're thinking, we're not able to hit all of them. The fact that we can hit them through this gap is just fine because there is a flaw with this that I already know about. If you have a look down here, there is a clock, and this is to power the line of powered rails right there. So when we hit this, you can see it blinks, and it blinks at a speed that means when we go back and forth, we actually hit every single sheep, all the time, which is awesome because that was a little bit of a flaw, as you saw, of it being powered. So the last thing for us to do now is figure out how are we going to get this signal that we have blinking right here onto the track that we have up there, because before my solution was literally just to put it on this platform, but now we're going to get to keep the little booths that are in front of them as well for shearing individual colours, which is fantastic. And we've gained a little bit of space right here, so if we have a look, the tunnel dropping down is going to be like this. We've got 2 blocks of space. I'm wondering if somehow we can perhaps put our redstone clock on the top here and transfer the signal down onto the rail, although I'm thinking you'd need a block at this height here. So maybe that space isn't actually that useful, but somewhere we need to point repeaters into either this block, into the rail itself, or to a block that's adjacent, which is these ones right here. So it's going to be a little bit tricky, but I'll see if we can do that. Alright, I do believe I've come up with a solution here, and it has one small problem, which I think is a spigot thing, not a vanilla Minecraft thing, so hopefully it is. If it's not, I do have an alternative that we could use, but anyway, let's go and look at what we've done here. So the important thing was to move all of this wall forward by 1 block, and then that created a little bit of space behind in which we could power blocks that were against the powered rails right there. So The 2 bits of redstone, that one there, and this one over here, are what's powering the entire powered rail. And it just so happens that it goes as far as the very edge here. So if I put another rail right there, you see that it doesn't get powered. And now I need a normal rail. Let's put that back. And it goes all the way down to the other end as well. However, on this side you can see that it's not getting powered. If we disconnect the 2 of these, I'm not sure if it does or it doesn't. If we turn off that one over there though, you can see it gets powered all the way down there. So I'm hoping that that's a spigot bug. Otherwise we would have to separate these even further apart so that they don't kind of like overlap, which is what they're doing at the moment. But otherwise that's going to work all the way down to the end there, so you can go all the way down, come all the way back up here. And then the only other thing to mention is that we have this little setup. So when you come down to the end here, you're going to go across this detector rail. So let's grab a minecart, and that's going to then power the dropper and the dropper on top. That's going to dispense a shear which goes into the hopper down there. So when you come through, if you have space in your inventory for a shear, it will give you a new one. And then down here you can see just a couple of hoppers pointing into that. So that is, I think, all ready to go, and it means that then we have a design where you can stand here and get a single colour, or you can drop in the minecart up the top here, go all the way across and back and get all of the colours at once, which is just awesome. Another thing is we'll probably put the lever there, so as you come back through you can hit that and be on your way. And that block doesn't need to be there, but yeah, no, that's fine, it doesn't need to be there. So yeah, you can come along, just whack the lever to stop or start depending on if you're getting on or off. And that's it. I think we've done everything we can here, so now we need to pop back onto Hermitcraft and build this thing. Alright, we're back on the server and we've got this silly site up the top again. As you can see, started doing a little bit of work here, move these blocks forward. But the main thing that we need to do is get the sheep out of the farm so that we can move these droppers without any sheep escaping. And do you know what? I've made trips back and forth too many times gathering materials. I needed some pistons for this top bit, and I decided to do this instead. So what I would like to have done is push this block down so that there's never an open gap like this. But the thing is, the sheep are 1.5 blocks tall, so there's no way that it should come through this gap. I am aware that by having them grouped up we may inadvertently cause some sort of crazy Minecraft behaviour. There you go. And by the way, I did a little test. You can hit the axe without hitting the sheep. However, it kind of looks like I'm going to hit the sheep, doesn't it? Oh, you can. Okay, good. And I look so derpy, that had me worried for a second that I was going to hurt them. There we go. Let's place that thing back down. There we go. They'll all make their way around again eventually. It probably looks really silly down there. So I've done that for all of those. They don't pop out the side. That's good. That means I don't have to go and grab some pistons. And look at that. There's loads of them down here at the bottom now. But anyway, we can start tearing this bit out. And everything's got to move over in this direction one, which means that some of the design here is probably going to change a little bit. I really like this border. I don't want to mess around with it. And I'm thinking what I'll try and do is push just these steps forward over the top, although then you won't be able to walk up it, which is part of the design. So this is all going to get a redesign basically. The whole thing's going to have to go, and we're going to have to figure it out all over again. Do you want to know what hundreds and hundreds of sheep sound like? Sound like that. The sound effects. They get cut off short. It's so silly. So I think the hardest part is now out of the way. We've successfully moved all of these blocks forward by one. That's where the chests are. And that may not sound like a big deal, but I wanted it to look good when they come forward. And you can see here this gap is now gone from 2 blocks to 1. And it looks fine. It's a little bit more squashed up, but really it doesn't make any difference at all. You just walk up here and get to the top area. And where you can notice that it's changed is over on this side. But it just looks like that's the way it should be, which is awesome. You can get up the top over here, and you can get up the top from this bit. It's really going to be no bother at all. So I'm happy with how that's turned out. I really was thinking that was going to be quite tough to get it to look right, but it was very straightforward and simple. So now we get to do all of the redstone behind it, which I'm hoping will be easy. I said this was the hardest part. Maybe the redstone will be if I've overlooked something. But we've made a good start. I've put all of the shears in these droppers. These are all set up. We need to do the redstone below down again, and then once we take out the droppers behind them, that's when we can put in the rails and get this thing underway. Do you know what? I just love this kind of building where you can quickly go and place everything down, repeating what you've done a moment before, which is what I've done for this entire setup. You know, every block, every bit of redstone and repeater, just going down in a line and placing them all. And that means now that the shear dispensers have all been moved forward by one, these should actually work, and we can do a little test together. Yep, you are dispensing shears. And when I hit that, you're going to stop. That's amazing. Awesome. Right, so now we can remove the ones behind them and work on the rail. So putting this all together has been going real smooth, and I thought this next bit was going to be a little bit tricky because we've got to deal with this water, but we need to take out this block of glass and replace it with some stairs, and we need to take out this as well, and I've left the dropper in below, and that is exactly what I was worried about happening. So there was a random block of glass missing there. It just so happens to be the only one as well. In fact, there were two bits missing there. I'm not sure why exactly that is the case. Let's put you back. What I was going to say is it's going to be nice and easy because once we've removed that, we put the hopper there and then the stairs go here. So once again, it's a nice little bit of easy and repetitive building. And look, another bit of glass has gone missing. What have I been doing? Have I been flying around? Is it me or is that missing as well? I just checked all of this. I could have swore it was all filled in. So what about the rest of it? No, missing again. Is this like a recurring pattern? What did I just look at? Because I just walked along underneath and checked every single one of these and they all had glass. And I think I know now. I was looking at this bit where the hoppers were. Aha, so all of them have two bits of glass missing that we need to fill in. This one has those two, as does this. Strange stuff. Yes, anyway, I was trying to say that it was going to be nice and easy, but at least we found those blocks and filled them back in. And this is where the rail is going to go, by the way. So, yeah, we're getting there now. Let's put that in right there. Let's remove this. Going to replace it with a hopper. And then put the stair block above. There's that problem again. And what's interesting is it's happening in the same direction. Although I don't know if it's the same orientation in the world. You know, for example, this is facing west. And I don't know if it's the same on the creative server. But there you go. It stops right there. So I imagine if we go over here and break this one, then we're going to see it update, yeah, like that. So I think what we need to do is find the distance, which should be very easy. Just go here and count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, we don't know if it goes any further than that. But either way, let's try and find where it ends and get it so that the two ends like are somewhere in the middle. And then that way, I'm hoping that they don't sort of overlap. Is it me? It looked like it just sort of updated a few here, then the ones there after. I don't know what I saw. Yes, hopefully that made sense. Right, anyway, I'm going to do some counting, figure out where this is going to go. Well, that worked. I spaced it out just about right. And we are good to go. That should be blinking at the correct speed. Whenever I look at it, it doesn't feel right, but it does work. I tell you what, I cannot wait to get this thing going now. We could release the sheep and start shearing them, but I do want to do the last bit with the rails here, because I think once that's in place, that's it. It's pretty much done, right? You can go back and forth on here. You can turn it on and off from the front, and you can stand in a booth and use one of these too, which is just fantastic. So the last thing for us to do is to create the little dispenser set up on this side, and my ladder, of course, is in the way. So we've had a slight redesign here. I've sort of been playing around with this little thing because it's going to activate the powered rail that's either side of it. So I think what we had before was a gap before this thing, and then there was still a powered rail there. So if we put a minecart on it, you'll see that works, which is good. But you can... Did I pick the shears up? I didn't. That's kind of worrying because I'm actually right here. So we might have a bit of a problem with that. I'm sure we can find a solution. You can see it activates it all the way down to there. And that's okay because when it leaves, it only does it for a little while. But it also activates this one here. So I've got a feeling when that's off, when you come back, there might be a little bit of an issue. But we're going to test it and find out. And did it just take my minecart? No, it didn't take it. I'm pretty sure that's something it would do though. So we don't have any shears in our inventory. Let's just do that. Put that there. Yeah, I didn't pick them up. That's kind of worrying. Maybe this needs to be one block higher. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So we go down like this, and we've got to hold down forward to get going. Maybe keep holding down forward. There we go. No, we've stopped. I've got a feeling I've done the timing wrong on this. Let's change the bottom one to just one. And the cool thing about this is they should synchronize up with one another. No, they're not synchronized. Why is that? They have to be turned off first, and then when they're turned back on, they'll synchronize. I think that's the way it works. Interesting. Okay, so now it's slightly faster. Hopefully that's enough. No, we've stopped again. That is actually really worrying. Okay, let's make it a little bit shorter still. Alright, I do believe I've now fixed the problem, and what I did is I changed around the design so we had the same clock except it resided in a one wide sort of vertical space, which if you saw it a moment ago you'll know what I mean. If not, don't worry about it. But it seems to be that the signal length here is on for longer than it is off. If you just look at the rails, definitely is on for longer than it's off, and when you change the design of this, it no longer keeps that property despite having the same sort of technical arrangement of repeaters, redstone and torches. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but it's different. It's a little oddity, I guess. Anyway, now when we pop down here, it should keep us moving, and that's fantastic. That had me worried for a moment. And I'm a little bit worried about what happens when we go to the end. Also, what's going to happen over here? Right, it gave us a minecart by the looks of it. So we keep moving. I mean, I reckon there's like a slim chance that maybe you can get caught at the end there, but otherwise, it seems to be good. The one problem now is that we can't pick up the shears, but this looks like it's ready for a test. And that is just so cool that we've managed to fit both of these together. I didn't expect to be doing this episode. I thought we were just going to be doing the way I showed you at the beginning. It wouldn't take too long, and then we'd do something else as well. But this is fine by me because it's going to be such an awesome thing to have here. So there was actually one more thing that I wanted to test there. So let's quickly grab the minecart from below and pop it down here, and then head in that direction. What happens when I hit that? Because I want to get off now. So we go all the way down to the end. I'm wondering if it's going to stop us, or because we power the rail, we're going to go back again. No, we go back again, which is unfortunate. So it looks like you're going to have to get out of this thing manually. So I've been sitting in here for well over an hour, and I've been watching this AFK session go on. I've seen the shears replenish themselves, so let's click on here. Let's also change these controls. I had to do a little bit of building while this was set to the second button, which was a bit of a pain. And let's get the sounds back up to 60%, which is where I think I keep it. So let's go back to the game. And to end our session here, we do have to do it a little bit manually by picking things up like that. But this thing has worked a charm. So I had to change this around over here. You can see the dropper now faces this way. We've moved it around to the side. And I had to put a glass block here because otherwise it shot it out all the way down here and the items despawned, which was unfortunate. But now the system works really well. And we should have a lot of wool. Ooh, that is more than I was expecting to see, let me tell you that. There's also some other items lying in here. I'm going to mention one thing right now. I think there's going to be a little bit of a bias, but let's find out. Okay, so, oh, didn't mean to place you. It looks like actually not that much less of this one, which is one of the ones I thought we had a bias for. And it's looking pretty even. Okay, orange is the one that I never saw a single thing shear. Well, there you go. Okay, so, and yellow gets quite a lot. And yellow is right at the end, which makes sense. We go over it once and then back again. And it's right as we slow down on the corner. So it's good for getting lots of yellow. And as it was going back and forth, it looked like it was hardly ever hitting the orange. And the same goes for this one right here as well. But it seems that it's just the orange one that gets left out a little bit. So we might be able to fix that by actually extending the track over here. But that's something for another day, because this has been a very successful rebuild of this project, and now we can use it in both ways, which is something I wasn't intending to do. It was only going to be to use all of them at once, so I think it's been a very successful episode, and I do hope you have enjoyed it. As always, if you have, leave a like, it makes a big difference, and as always, thank you for your support. I've had a good time today. I think I've just said that a couple of times. Yeah, it's been really great. Just very happy with this. And of course, we've got another one to do on the other side. My plan is to do that in between episodes and turn it into a time-lapse, because I have a very cool song to show you in the next video. Anyway, that is it from me this episode. As always, thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.